Hey, what's up, Pierce? How you doing? So let's go over this real quick. So I made a pig head, and then I did some flip fluid coming out of it. So basically, the pig head turns into some flip fluid, and that gets spilt on the ground. And you can see your nice colors here. So I assume you want to know, like for example, how you would get those colors into the actual mesh. I'm going to turn this off and turn on the fluid mesh here. So you see, we don't get any of those colors in the fluid mesh right now. It's just an even blue. So there's probably a couple ways to do it, but the way I'm going to show you is the first way I could think of and make work. So back here in the AutoDOP network, as we go in, and we're looking at these colors, but as you can see on my geometry spreadsheet, I don't actually have any CD attributes. So we're not looking at color that's actually on the points. And in fact, we're looking at something that's on the flip fluid object inside of guides. If you look at visualizer here, I know that the tab's kind of small here. So you go to guides, go to particles, and if you turn that off, you don't see particles at all. So let's go and look at what is being shown here with the particles. So we go to the particles tab, saying visualization particles, sure, scale 1, sure. Visualization type, speed, and then it's visualization mode ramp, and then this color mode maps ramp maps nicely onto these colors that we're seeing here. So this is probably where it is. So visualization type is what's happening, but it's not actually baking these out into colors. So the first thing we're going to do is turn that off. So now we're basically seeing what we should be seeing based on the spreadsheet, which is no color at all. And then we're going to add a color, pop color, and that's basically going to take the attributes of this object as it's simming and enable us to pipe stuff into the CD attributes, which will then show up a little bit further downstream. I'm going to pipe this into, what is this first one? Geez, this is so small I can't even see. Particle velocity, volume velocity, sourcing, blah, blah, blah. I'll just pipe it into this first one, it's fine. And whatever comes in here is going to get evaluated before each, I think it's either before or after. I think it's before each cycle. So if you pipe something in here, it will get included in the flip solve. So I'm going to turn this on. Instead of constant, which would color it lilac, we're going to say that we want it to be a ramp. And we want the ramp to be the velocity. So it's basically the velocity of the incoming particles. However, you'll notice that the ramp is not correct. So we need to get that ramp back. So let's go to the flip fluid object here. You can hover over the name color ramp, right click and say copy parameter. Come back here to the pop color, hover over the name ramp and say paste values. Boom. Now our ramp is good, but you'll notice it doesn't look right. Well, why is that? Well, it's because it's just showing us the ramp here based on the velocity of the points. Now, some of the points are moving in the positive x direction and some are moving in the negative x direction. So we don't really want velocity to be telling us what to do. What we want is the length of the velocity. That's basically the magnitude of the vector velocity. So it's kind of like how fast is it moving. So now we're seeing a little bit of color, but not much. Why is that? Well, if we go back here to our flip fluid object, we'll notice that the color ramp was actually within the range 0 to 10. But by default, our pop color is in the range 0 to 1. So if I say 0 to 10, now it's starting to look more like what we saw. And we have CD attributes on all the particles. Great. So now we're outputting CD. Now you'll notice the first frame is completely white, and that's because there's no velocity to be calculated because there's no previous frame to check against, so there's no way to compute the velocity of these on the first frame. There's probably a trick to get around this, but I don't know what it is. So essentially, we're not going to have any color information on our first frame, but we will on all subsequent frames. Great. So I'm going to go up here, and that's our AutoDOP network, and then we're going to go back into our GeoFluid, which is where we're pulling in .io, we're pulling in the points, and here they have the color, so that's looking great. That's what we want. So we have to change two things. One, we have to change the fluid compress, which is a way of compressing the data that it's getting back from .io and writing it to disk. So it's like caching it out. It's compressing it and then caching it out so it doesn't have to read it every single time we want to make a change to the look dev here. So I go into Fluid Compress. Under Keep Attributes, I'm looking at all these, I'm looking at all these, and I'm not seeing CD. So let's type that in here, CD. Okay, so now this is compressing one of the yeah, it looks weird. I don't know how to gain any information from looking at the visualization of this node, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go back to Particle Fluid Surface. And so now it's being compressed with CD, it's being written to disk with CD, but you'll notice that we're not seeing it here in the Particle Fluid Surface. The final thing we have to do is tell Particle Fluid Surface, hey, look for the attribute CD and include it when you're computing what your surface information should be. So we go here and we say CD. Now, if I go back to the first frame, it's the same color as it was, because remember, it was white on the first frame because there was no velocity information. However, moving to the second frame, now it's changed color to that deep blue that we like to see, and as it gets faster, it's getting lighter. So now we know that it's moving its color information onto the mesh. And sure enough, it's a deeper blue down here, and it's a little brighter up here. And that makes sense because these points are moving faster than these points. So from here on out, it's basically a question of salt to taste. Just basically adjust the mapping of the ramp, and you can change the color mapping in post also if you want, because you're writing out CD. So you could do a color node here, and you could take CD. Oops. Oh God, what have I done? You could take CD here and you could remap it with a color ramp, basically, a color sop. And if you were to do that, then I would suggest that you go back into your network and change this back to a default black to white ramp, because then that's going to make the color remapping much easier when you're, when you're here remapping your color. So essentially that's it. That's how to get color into your surface. I hope you found it useful. Please hit me up if you have any questions. I will respond as quickly as I can, given whatever I'm working on.